This is the Sales Babble Podcast, episode 505. How to sell by not selling. These paradoxes, they just kill you, don't they?
Welcome to Sales Babble, the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Hello, Sales Babblers. It's Pat Helmers. This is the podcast that embraces the effortless action and Taoist style of non-pushy sales. Now, in the timeless dance of commerce, I'd like to reflect a bit on the business aspects of selling, which is a topic this podcast babbles about all the time. So, when you consider the profession of selling, what comes to mind? Is it a realm where one must assume the guise of a rapid-talking predator? You still hear people saying that in order for you to be successful in sales, you got to be the elusive shark in the marketplace. You know, this is a pervasive belief, and indeed it's a hurtful one. So, let's consider this, that the art of selling isn't a slam dance to the rhythm of forceful persuasion, but rather a more subtle dance, a waltz, let's say, of not selling. Yep, I agree. It's a paradox. Fathom a sales process that flows like a river, effortlessly shaping its course without the turbulent eddies of aggressive pitches. This is our exploration and the topic of today's episode: how to sell by not selling. But before we start, make sure and subscribe to the podcast and also follow us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and myself on LinkedIn. You can find links in the show notes. And so with no further ado, let's get to it. And now today's chapter: selling by not selling. When the master sells, prospects are hardly aware of it. To them, it's just a conversation about their lives. Next best is a seller who is loved. Next is one who is feared as sleazy. The worst is one who is considered a huckster. If you don't trust the customer, you make them untrustworthy. The master seller doesn't talk. They act. When the sale is closed, the people say, "We chose wisely." And now today's story. Chris was excited to start a new sales position. The new company had great products and services that could save clients significant time while maintaining quality. Chris's sales manager, Pat, took Chris out on their very first sales call. Chris was shocked that Pat never showed the slide deck they had worked on all week. When Chris and Pat first arrived at the client's office, Pat commented on one of the marketing posters on the wall. It was a new product, and the prospects were quick to start talking about it. Next, the conversation wound around trends in the industry, the customer's yearly goals, and the challenges with supply chains, which led to the services Pat and Chris came to talk about. Before Chris knew it, the prospects requested a quote for a 3-year contract. "How did you do that?" asked Chris. "We never even showed them the slide deck. All you did was talk to them." "Not exactly," said Pat. "If you notice, what we really did was ask a few targeted questions and let them tell us what they want and what they need. When I saw that they had one quality issue, I merely mentioned our solution, and bingo, they got excited. My goal is always to have the buyer know they chose wisely and on their own accord. That's what I call master selling." Trust your customers know what's best for their business. If you listen, you will know how you can help. There's no need to arm twist or be unethical. Your goal is to make sure the buyers choose wisely. Dismiss what our culture says about salespeople. Instead, create your own story about how you've made a difference. Nelson Mandela, the anti-apartheid activist and politician, once said, quote, "We can change the world and make it a better place. It's in our hands to make a difference." End quote. This is one of my most favorite episodes because I love the idea when the sale is closed, the people say, "We chose wisely." If you'd like to download a copy of this week's chapter of the Tao of Sales Babble, you can find it in the show notes at salesbabble.com. And while you're there, you can sign up for our Briefly Week newsletter with links to the podcast sent conveniently to your inbox. Now, if you could do me a favor and share this episode with a friend who's also interested in growing their selling skills, please do. Word of mouth is the premier way of growing our sales community. And if you have any questions about this episode or any other past ones, please ask. Find me on LinkedIn or click the Babble Me link on the website. Sales is one of my favorite topics. I'd love to help you out. With that said, that's all I have for this week. Until next Tuesday morning, take care and have a highly successful and a profitable selling day.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Babble podcast. Find us at www.salesbabble.com.
This is a production of Habanero Media.